Hey there folks, my name is Peter and the Snap-on guy keeps prying money out of my wallet. That's right folks, I just got off the Snap-on truck. I picked up some super cool stuff that I think you're going to want to stick around to check out. As always, if you're into tools, EDC, or do-it-yourself projects, be sure to subscribe to the channel. So after my last Snap-on truck adventure, I had placed an order because he didn't have everything that I wanted on the truck. What I'm realizing is that if I were willing to not have the green handle, I could get a lot more stuff a lot more quickly. But because of the green handle, and him usually having red, which is like the Snap-on primary color, as well as a few others, the stuff I want is not always immediately available on the truck. Now, I'd mentioned previously that placing orders is not something I want to get in the habit of doing because I don't necessarily need anything immediately, so I can wait around for promos and things like that. That being said, there was a couple things that I needed, so I did place those orders. I will be picking them up probably next week, so you'll see another unboxing video here soon. But for now, let's get into the stuff that I bought most recently. So first things first, we're not even going to talk about a Snap-on product, but I did get this off of the Snap-on truck. So this is actually an EZRed. Model number 4S12L. What you have here is an extra long handle, and on the one side, you've got a 1/4-inch bit holder. So this is just a Milwaukee shockwave bit. Pop it in there. It is pretty magnetic. I mean, it does take a little bit of force to get it out of there. Of course, this is a reversible ratcheting mechanism. So we have it on, we can turn it off, which is pretty cool. And it's a flex head. So I can hold this button down on the side, and it's a locking flex head. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 positions in total. And then on the opposite end, you've got a 1/4-inch socket driver. So we can throw one of our Snap-on 1/4-inch sockets on there. Again, same idea, reversible with your 7 locking flex positions. Now, I'm not sure that this was something I particularly needed, but I saw it and I knew that because it wasn't Snap-on, it wasn't gonna be that expensive. I love that it's this extra long handle with a locking flex head. Obviously, it's reversible. And I think this is a very versatile piece of kit. Next, you probably noticed we got the free hat. And for those of you who have watched our Snap-on unboxings in the past, you know that my particular dealer, if you buy 2 pliers or a single hammer, you get a free hat. At this point, I have probably a half a dozen Snap-on hats, so I certainly don't need any more hats. But what I generally do is I look at all the pliers that he has for sale, and if they have a green handle, I check them out. He's had a bunch of the same green handle stuff for a while, so I haven't picked up anything. But this week, he had some new stuff, starting with these Talon grip FlankJaw 6-inch pliers. Now, in a previous unboxing video, I got that 3-plier kit, which came with a set of these Talon grip FlankJaws as well. This one is a double slip joint, while the longer one is a triple slip joint. With the slightly bigger ones, you're gonna be able to grab a nut between the size of 1/4-inch to 1 inch, according to Snap-on's documentation. I appreciate that it has this little arrow here, so that you know how to turn it. It's got it on both sides, so if you're upside down, you can certainly see it as well. It does have this little shear cutter here. When I tried it, I don't actually have any good wire to test it with. I'll probably have to get some of that for maybe a future video. And then on the smaller one, you're looking at a 3/16 to 9/16 nut to turn. So I appreciate having them in multiple sizes. And of course, like I said in the last video, this is probably more of like an EDC type item for me, whereas this will sit in the toolbox. This was one of only 2 pliers on the whole truck that he had in the green handle. This had been on my wish list for quite a while, so I went ahead and picked it up. Those other pliers are these. So these are the HDW C8s. Now, I think that these are relatively new, right? So they look a lot like the Knipex bolt cutters, which he also has on the truck, but I've never actually picked them up. I was thinking about buying them from Amazon, but I don't know, I just never really did. And then when I saw these, especially in the green handle, I said, you know what? Let's pick them up. I don't have a pair of bolt cutters, so why not? Obviously, these aren't very big, and Snap-on says that for a piano wire, you can do about 3.8 millimeters, and then for a soft wire, you can get up to about 6 millimeters with these. I haven't tested them too thoroughly as of yet, but they feel pretty good right out of the box. One thing that was interesting, I made a YouTube short lamenting the fact that my previous set of Baco pliers had a completely different green on them. And as you would expect, most of the comments were you shouldn't worry about the handle color. I would disagree, right? I mean, I think if you're gonna pay 50, 60 bucks for a set of pliers and you're gonna get green, you want it to be universal across your entire toolbox. You're free to disagree with that, but that's how I feel. So these are the precision tip needle nose, and I don't know how well it'll come up on this video, but these have a very different green, almost more of like a lime green, whereas this actually looks like what you would expect with the Snap-on green, right? So on on my left or your right are the Made in USA greens, and then these are the Made in USA or Made in Spain greens on the bolt cutters. But then here's the Made in Spain on the precision tip needle nose. So a little bit of variation. Maybe they figured it out and this was just a bad batch. Who could really be sure? I still love these things. I don't know if I ever did this in a video, but these are the P9 2055As. I know that these are considered like a specialty plier, but for me, like from a homeowner DIY perspective, I think when you're talking about like pliers that you should have in your toolbox, I'm definitely gonna have these in there because they're true needle noses and you can get in and out of obviously very tight spaces. They do give you this little plastic cover to keep on there, but pretty much anything will work just to protect the tips. The next thing that I picked up was another Shank for my ratcheting screwdriver. Now, I think my favorite purchase so far out of the entire Snap-on stuff that I've bought is my ratcheting screwdriver set. So I have both this handle and the stubby. The stubby's inside right now because I was using it previously. But they make, I think, 5 or 6 different shanks, right? They've got the extra long, they've got the regular length, they've got this, which is 1/4 inch for your sockets. They have a flexible one, which I actually just placed the order for, so that'll be in a future unboxing. And I just decided that, you know what? Given the fact that I have the Snap-on 1/4 inch sockets, I really just need to go all out and make sure that I can leverage those sockets in a variety of ways. And in fact, I actually used this just before I did a video in my Kawasaki Mule to get the battery in and out. That bolt is way down in there. You could theoretically do it with like a stubby ratchet, but my hand is big obviously, and once you get your hand all the way in there, it's hard to see what you're doing. So with something like this, you could be a little bit more precise, get it straight up and down. You can still see, you can still shine a light down, and I just found it to be a little bit more useful. So picked up this shank. I think Docket Last Best Tool has suggested that there are gear wrench shanks that you can also use here if you want to save a few bucks. Nothing wrong with that. But for me, I wanted to finish out my kit. So after I get the flexible shaft, I will have all of the different shanks that Snap-on makes for these ratcheting screwdrivers, and I'm extremely happy. Again, from a homeowner point of view, DIYer point of view, I find that I'm using these things all the time, probably more than just the regular screwdrivers, and I actually think that if I could only have one screwdriver, it's probably going to be this. We'll do a quick interlude and talk about the other free stuff that we got today. So this is the Snap-on Pocket flathead screwdriver. It's also got a little magnet on the end, which I have found to be kind of nice, and it's actually relatively strong. I think that's pretty good. So he had a box of these and he said he had to go ahead and take a couple. So I grabbed some. I'll probably throw this in a truck or something and just have it if I need it. And then I have this Snap-on sticker pack. We did start to price out a Snap-on toolbox, at which point you probably don't need the sticker pack as much. I love this Husky toolbox, mostly because I appreciate that this top cranks upward and downward. Of course, if I had a Snap-on box, it's a fixed height and there's really not much you can do about it. But what I'm also noticing is that this box is filling up very quickly. The drawers are not as deep as I need them, both in terms of height and length, and I'm running out of space. So I don't know that I will necessarily buy a Snap-on toolbox. I don't know that I will necessarily, if I do buy one brand new. Obviously on Facebook Marketplace, you can always find stuff. The problem is most of what you see on Facebook Marketplace is in the 55-inch variety. This is a 72-inch box, and I think if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it big, and I'm gonna get an 84-inch Epic, because why not? So let me know in the comments what you think I should do with respect to a new toolbox. Should I buy a Snap-on off the truck, 84-inch Epic? Should I buy something else? I would love to hear all of your thoughts and opinions. Next up, so he had this on the truck previously, but he did not have it in the green handle. And this is one of those things where the green really doesn't matter because it's so minimal. But I said, you know what, I don't need it right this second. At the time, I mean, summer was barely here. Of course, now we're getting outside a lot more, so I'm happy that I have it. But this is the Snap-on Fireman's Nozzle. Now, it obviously won't come through in the video, but I really can't overstate how good this feels in the hand, both ergonomically, but also just, you could tell the build quality is there. Now this is a made in China product, but it is a lifetime warranty, which is super cool. It has 2 different mechanisms for you to turn it on and off. So you can either click it forward for on, click it backward for off, and of course you can adjust the nozzle here as well. This is an all aluminum construction inside. It's got your filter here to make sure your water is nice and clean, and then you're going to go ahead and get your hose on there in the back. This is the most substantial water nozzle that I have ever felt in my entire life. And the thing with water nozzles is, of course, you can go to Home Depot, you can buy one for, I think you could probably buy a Fireman's one for 20 bucks. This is much more than $20, but this is a lifetime warranty product, which I find super compelling. I think water hose nozzles, you run over them with the car, they break, what have you. If you did something like this, and it did break, which honestly I have a hard time believing there's anything you could do to this that would break it, but I'm sure it's possible. I'm gonna bring it onto the truck and he's gonna give me a brand new one. Now Snap-on does sell a couple other water nozzles. You don't have to get this big bulky thing if you don't want it. And of course you don't have to get a Snap-on one at all. But I do have it in the green, which is pretty cool. And like I said, easily the best build quality in a water nozzle that I've ever seen. Now it wouldn't be a Snap-on unboxing video without me talking about lighting. Somebody left a comment in a previous video and said, as a longtime Snap-on shopper, I don't think you're ready for the number of new lights that Snap-on comes out with. That person could not be more correct. Every time I walk onto the truck, it seems like there's a new light, and I don't know what it is, but they're all so compelling because they all fit different use cases. So on a previous video, I had picked up this light. This is the very flexible, incredibly strong magnets on the back of it, rechargeable, and then you can control each light individually, or you can just have them all on at once. This is fantastic, right? It sticks on the side of the toolbox. I've used it a handful of times. But then today, I see this other light that he's got on a toolbox, and I'm like, what is that thing? And then I went to grab it, and I thought it was mechanically attached to the toolbox. I could not believe how strong the magnets were. So that would be this little number. So this is Snap-on's ECF-DG108. It is 1000 lumens at the high, and then when you turn it on, and if you hold this down, you can dim it, right? So now we're getting much higher, and it's gonna get lower. And then I don't know why that is, but like when we go from high to low and then I let go, it just goes to high, like it doesn't stay at the lower, but then you can eventually get it to dim to where you want it to on the second try. This has their rechargeable batteries, right? So now the previous version of this light was rechargeable, but the batteries were not removable. With this one, you could take these out, and these are their USB-C chargeable lithium batteries. You're seeing a lot of companies do this now. I mean, Ryobi has a battery that looks almost exactly like this. And then I guess what's good about this is that Snap-on makes a 4-bay charger for these batteries. So if you had a bunch of them and these died, instead of having to charge the whole light and wait, you can simply put these on the charger, take 2 new ones off, and then you're back to work, which of course is pretty cool. In terms of the magnets, I don't think that I can do it justice, but let me just tell you, these are exceedingly strong magnets. Now I bought this with a very specific purpose in mind. So on my Milwaukee pack-out wall, I love these, they call them the belt clip holders, but I said to myself, you know what, this is actually the perfect size for this light, such that I could throw it on this wall behind me. And generally, my workshop is not set up in this way, right? I move the toolbox to film these videos, but normally the toolbox is shifted 90 degrees, and then I have an open area in which to work with my tools on this side, and then I've got another workbench over here. And so having a light on that wall is pretty useful. So if we clip this on there, I'm thinking to myself, you know, this is just gonna sit on the wall like this. I don't know if this is helping, but obviously these magnets are not going anywhere. And this rotates with 120 degrees of rotation. So this is obviously flat, but you can rotate it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Obviously 4 times in my use case against the wall isn't really gonna help, but likely it'll sit something like this for most of its life. Now I do use these pack-out holders for their intended purpose, which I assume is tape measures. And again, I have found them to be infinitely useful. So in this case, I'm holding 3 tape measures. We've got our Snap-on 25 footer, which I talked about in the last video. This is just a 16-foot Milwaukee. I don't actually really like it. It's not auto locking. It doesn't really have any interesting features, but I have it on here because my auto locking Milwaukee is on my Vito Pro Pack, which is one of the first YouTube videos I ever did. So if you haven't checked that out, you might want to. And then this one is actually really interesting. I never did a video on this, but this is the Fast Cap. So it's got a built-in pencil sharpener. It's got this little area here for you to write on. It's got the button both at the bottom and up here. Now it's not auto locking, but the other thing that's cool about it, besides this white tape, which is really easy to read, is that it goes all the way, by 1/8 of an inch. So you've got 1/8, quarter, 3/8, etc. instead of most tape measures, which are just quarter, half, etc. And then it also does metric. So you've got some millimeters on there as well. Anyway, in terms of this light, 1000 lumens, rechargeable, 120 degrees of rotation, and the world's strongest magnets. I think it'll go great on the wall back there. Obviously, you know, see, you can't even pull it off. You're just gonna have to slide it off. And of course, if I wanted to move it around, I could. And then the last thing we picked up today, also the most expensive thing, is our snap-on Prybar set. Now, the catalyst for this is that I have started to frequent pawn shops looking for snap-on tools. And while our friend Doc at Last Best Tool has suggested that in Montana, there are pawn shops that are just stocked floor to ceiling with snap-on tools, my experience has been almost the opposite. Sometimes I do walk into a pawn shop and they have some snap-on tools. Generally, I find them to be priced about retail. I mean, obviously you're getting them for a little bit less, and maybe you could haggle, but I also haven't found anything that I actually wanted. Like last time I went, they had a 3-piece ratchet set in the foam, black handle. I think they wanted $350 for it. I think it retails for a little over $400. So certainly a bit of a deal. I mean, they were in very, very good shape, but I have 2 of those 3 ratchets already, and I didn't want the black handle anyway. That being said, on a recent pawn shop visit, I picked up this Matco Prybar. So this is a striking Prybar, goes all the way through the handle. It's blue. Obviously, it's a little worse for the wear, which is what you would expect. I mean, these are tools that you're literally meant to just beat on. But the guy wanted 20. I think I got it for 15. So I thought that that was a screaming deal for this Prybar. And then when I got it home, I realized that, so I picked this up, say, a month ago. I have used this almost every day that I'm in the garage. I find a use case for this tool, which was surprising to me because prior to owning this, I didn't really have an actual Prybar. Most of my prying tasks were going to get done with a flathead screwdriver, which of course you're not supposed to do, but you quickly realize that that flathead screwdriver is going to reach its potential in terms of use pretty quickly, whereas this may never reach that. So I like this, but I realize that given how much I'm finding myself using stuff like this, the Snap-on set wasn't far behind. Now, sadly, this did not come in the foam. I think that Snap-on does sell a striking Prybar set in foam, but I think it has red handle. I think it has another Prybar, like the price is way more than this one was, but that's okay. These blow molded cases are nice. I mean, they serve the same purpose, right? The whole point of this is when we open our toolbox and we look at this, we say, okay, something's wrong, something's missing. Whether it's in foam or plastic, doesn't really change any of that. So this Prybar set is 4 pieces. You've got your 8, 12, 18, and 24. These handles are the first thing that you'll notice as being much more substantial than the Matco. So if we try to do a side-by-side comparison, hopefully you can see that this is a lot more substantial. Plus you've got this nice butt on the end to prevent your hand from moving upwards, whereas the Matco actually tapers at the end, which I think is the opposite of what you want. I have not yet hit myself in the hand, but I think eventually you always will. And I think the Snap-on is going to help ensure that you do that the least, at least when I compare it to the Matco. They come with these little rubber caps on the end, which is nice. Of course, they're all pre-oiled from the factory, which is what you would expect. Although, the biggest one, this 24-inch one, does not have that little rubber bit on the end, which is surprising. Do with that information what you will. I think most often I will find myself down here, right? I think this 8-inch is really nice for getting into some tight areas. And then I think as you move up, you're probably getting into more of the striking use cases. But you can find an infinite number of use cases for a Prybar. Admittedly, I have not used the mini Prybar that I have in my EDC kit that much. I've used it for a handful of tasks. But again, I can't really overstate the use that this has gotten in the short amount of time that I've had it. So I was happy to complete my set. Of course, we had to get it in the green handle. And while I was on the truck, one of the things that I placed the order for was the carbide scraper set in the green handle. So that will be on a future unboxing. But that's going to do it for today's Snap-on unboxing. Let me know what you think of what we picked up. What should I be buying next? As always, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel tremendously. And I will see you on the very next video.